familiar. So if you don't know by now, then you should probably get familiar.
Hey everyone, if you don't know who I am Jesse from the Janjo Zone. I make weekly Yu-Gi-Oh content and also make a very informative Yu-Gi-Oh history series. In this video, I'm making a deck profile for Jinzo&Tonic's Yu-Gi-Oh channel, and if this is the first time you're finding this video on this channel, then you should definitely subscribe to him because he makes a lot of awesome Yu-Gi-Oh content. So, for the deck profile today, it'll be Janjo's Jinzo video. That could be a tongue twister, so let's get started. This is Janjo, and I'm building a deck, yeah! Alright, so the first thing you may wonder is, how the frick do you make a Jinzo deck in the GOAT format of Yu-Gi-Oh? Because when it comes to Jinzo, there's only one copy available. He's a limited card. He is on the FBI's most wanted list, Konami's most wanted list, the etc. So with Jinzo, I wanted to make a Jinzo deck, because most of the time that you only make Jinzo decks are in more modern formats when there actually is Jinzo support, like Jinzo Jector, Jinzo Lord, but I think I found something that we can do. So, just looking off of Jinzo, oh god, that's the Rush Duel art? Oh, that's hideous. Goodness gracious. So we're gonna, should we do the regular or the, no, we'll do the regular one. So, obviously, we can only have one Jinzo, which is unfortunate. And the only other Jinzo card, and this is actually the basis for the deck, is Jinzo number 7. It's not as good as the Jinzo number 5. A little bit of Monica in my life. So, we gotta play Jinzo. And the other only Jinzo cards available is Amplifier. Amplifier is kind of cool. If you equip it to Jinzo, it allows you to use trap cards, which is kind of cool. That's not going to be the basis of the deck, but the whole point of this deck is the requirement of using all Jinzo cards, and Jinzo number 7 is probably the most useful out of them in terms of structuring a deck around, because you can't really structure a deck under one monster that's very specific. I guess you could make like a very anti-trap deck, but you know, unless you're playing a deck that uses heavy traps, it's probably not going to be very kosher. But with Jinzo number 7, it was released in the Metal Raiders of all sets, with a lot of other similar monsters that he can attack life points directly. And he's the strongest out of the Metal Raider bunch, but there is one other one that is even stronger that was released later, and that is the Servant of Catabolism. It means like breaking down molecules into simplified molecules, or something like that. It's another direct attacker with 700 attack. This is much higher than Jinzo number 7. The other card you could run, I'm not running it, but is Inaba White Rabbit with 700 attack, but it is a spirit monster, so it doesn't keep that on board present. So yeah, this is gonna be like a direct attack kind of deck. I didn't know really what to call it, whether it's like a stun deck or like a lockdown. It's kind of somewhere in the middle, I would say. If you want to run an even weaker one in terms of early monsters, see, Rainbow Flower actually fit that bill. But the plus I one Jinzo deck, 2 Kabeba is stronger, and he's a light monster. So yeah, you do have some light and dark monsters in this. So you can run a Black Luster Soldier. He won't be as useful as he could be in other decks, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Some other monsters we're going to run. Sangan, because he can search any of your weak monsters out. That's cool. Well, let's go off the stun stuff first, because I know I don't always do my deck profiles in order of as some other people do. I do more of strategical order. Today's tea of the day is vanilla chai tea. It's delicious when it's hot. When it gets cold, it's not quite as good. When it gets cold, you probably should add some milk to it. Make it a little bit thicker, a little bit creamier, I would suggest. But we're actually going to run Gravity Blind. Gravity Blind! There's 2 available for us to use. which level 4 or higher monsters cannot attack. So this helps out our attack directly monsters. It works against Jinzo, but with Amplifier you can still get the strategy off, and you can still negate their trap cards, which is still useful in ways. You just gotta be careful on when using Jinzo in this deck. You can't attack, but if your main strategy is the direct attacking, so it's not the thing you need the most. It's a similar thing with Blackluster Soldier. You can still summon him, you can still have an on-field presence. You can run something like Rare Gold Armor or Ring of Magnetism if you really wanted to on some of these cards, but you can still banish cards, banish monsters with Blackluster Soldier, so that's still good. And if they do get rid of Gravity Bind, you still have a very powerful option you could use for a special summonable monster. I'm not running Messenger of Peace, because there is certain other things I am running in this. It's not a complete lockdown deck, but we are running Level Limit Area B, in which 2 are available for us, and this will affect all level 4 or higher monsters. Again, it kind of works against these 2 cards, but they do have alternate effects that can still work in our favor. So that's going to be the basis of the lockdown. They may be wondering why I'm not running Messenger of Peace. Well, we're actually running a pretty decent equip engine in this deck. We're in the 1 Mage Power, and United we stand because we can only run 1 of each of these. And for 2 other specific ones, Acts of Despair we're running because 1,000 boost is so high. Initially, I did have a build where I was running Messenger of Peace, and if you want to go that route, you would probably have to get rid of all of these. And actually, you could run Acts of Despair, but you probably would have to run the Rainbow Flower instead. Otherwise, with Jinzo number 7, the best card that probably works with them would be a Malevolent Nuzzler, because that's 700 attack and still keeps it under 1500. But with Acts of Despair, it goes way over. You know, it goes to 15 and 17. And with direct attack, and that's a good chunk each turn. So it's kind of a glassy deck in that regard. But I feel like Messenger of Peace wasn't necessary in this build. Another great card that fits under that level 3 is 2 Mataza the Zappers. This card is absolutely phenomenal, underrated card. He can attack twice, and he cannot be switched control on the field. So he's like a blindly loyal goblin. A blindly loyal goblin. So with Mataza, level 3, you can use him. Hayabusa Knight is also an option, but he's weaker. The control of him can be changed, and he's not a dark, so I wouldn't recommend running Hayabusa Knight over Mataza. You could search. You could run a Reinforcements of the Army if you wanted to. I'm not running one in this deck, but I do think this card is great because you can equip him with a lot of these very powerful equip cards and just go ham on your opponent as well. Again, also why I'm not running Messenger of Peace. We're actually running a couple more cards. 2 Sonic Ducks. Sonic Duck is pretty interesting because it's just a vanilla 1700 attack monster, but it is level 3 and it is highest attack out of those cards, which is great because again, it fits under level limit, it fits under Gravity Bind, and it's just a solid beater, especially compared to all the other monsters you have are relatively weak. So to have a monster that can beat over Tribe Infecting Virus, a Blade Knight, Breaker the Magical Warrior, all these monsters in their default forms, is good. It's good to have those options to have. So we're actually going to run a couple more monsters. We're not done yet. And my initial build, that was more of a lockdown variant. It was very minimal with the monsters, but maybe that'll be another profile for my channel. But yeah, I do a weekly goat format deck profile every Wednesday on my channel. So we're on a Sinister Serpent because he's good for just having some sort of discard fodder. He has his uses for the deck that isn't like super aggro. You could replace him if you want to run something else that has different utility. Again, there's a lot of things in this deck that is more up to personal preference, but that's just kind of what I like. So we're running 2 Blacksmith Kotetsus because you can search out a lot of cards in your deck. This another underrated card, I believe, in just any deck. You can search out Amplifier, Acts of Despair, Mage Power, United Withstand, And even Premature Burial, because I do like to have the one Recursion, because we're not running Call of the Haunted. So having that Recursion is good. It's good. It's good. It's pretty good. A couple more flips. Magician of Faith. Initially I had 2 Faiths and no Massive Darkness, but I decided to do 1 of each. You could do whichever one you prefer, but since we are running a good chunk of traps and spell cards, I do think it's nice to have the option for either or to decide what you kind of need it for. Plus, if you lose one with Nobleman Crossout, at least you have the other one. You could run Book of Moon in this build, I suppose. I'm not running it, but this is what I got. So next couple cards, Pot of Greed and Graceful. We're not running the complete Trinity here because we don't really care too much about what's in their hand per se, because a lot of these more options would be when they hit the field. So at least having the draw power, obviously, like, it's not a deck if you're not running these two, really. I mean, these are like the cards of the format. I mean, the saying it always was that if you do not Pot of Greed, it's not a real deck. So great card that protects a lot of things. Solemn Judgment. You're probably going to want to primarily use these against back row hate, against cards like Heavy Storm, MST, Breaker the Magical Warrior, because you don't have too many defenses apart from that. So you do want to really kind of protect the castle in a lot of ways, just kind of stun your opponent out of existence. Some of these traps, more so than the other cards in this deck, are kind of personal preference. I mean, you could run like a Divine Wrath, you could run Bottomless Trap Hole, but I'm going with Phoenix Wing Wind Blast and Compulse. What I like about these is that you can return cards to your opponent's hand. So if you have like a Blackluster Soldier, you can just get rid of that when you can. Obviously, doesn't really help with some cards like Breaker, but Breaker, he only targets 1 card at like 1 point in a duel. It's not the worst thing ever to kind of just let that go through. So with a Compulse, you can get rid of things and you go them back to your hand, your opponent's hand, and Phoenix Wing Wind Blast. You can be sure what they're going to draw next if you know they're at that position, which is why I like those 2 cards in this deck. Next we got Ring of Destruction. Again, this can get rid of cards. This can close out games, just get that nice burn damage, a lot of utility with that. Running Mirror Force, because again, Mirror Force is really good. Destroy all your opponent, it's great protection. You could run Sakuretsu Armors if you really wanted to. Let's see, so there's one other card we're going to add to this deck, and you might be wondering what that is. So the last card we're going to add, this is mostly a filler card, but I still like it. You could run Wall of Revealing Light, but I do like Swords of Revealing Light, because it prevents them for 3 turns, and you don't need to pay life points for it. That's good. So you can protect your monsters from attacks. You can reveal face downs if you need to. It doesn't have that trap utility that Wall of Revealing Light does, but it still has use for it. Overall, I do like this deck. It's much different than my initial build looked. But I do think this is a better build than my first version, which I might post on my Patreon, so look into that. Again, this kind of deck, I don't normally build these types of decks, so this is kind of a little bit different for me, but I do like to have the variety. And I did want to try to make some sort of Jinzo variant for Jinzo&Tonic, because that's the perfect place for this kind of video. And I do like to make just all these kind of weird, absurd decks. I'm sure I'll make kind of weirder ones. Could maybe run more light targets. I really wish Sonic Duck was a light card, but you don't really need Blackluster Soldier, so it's not too bad if you don't have him right away, just waiting on targets. I try to make it a bit more aggro than more defensive. It was basically like you need to get your cards out, set up your field, and then just constantly get in for those absurd amount of damages with these, because Kaiba said monsters that attack directly are very powerful. Not me, that was from the manga. So yeah, let me know what you think about this deck, what changes you would make, what decks you'd like to see. If you want to request a deck profile from my channel, certainly check out my Patreon. And if you haven't subscribed to Jinzo&Tonic, you should subscribe. He is a phenomenal retro format duelist, and he makes great content, and he backs up his claims, and you can't get any better than that. So yeah, thanks for having me on your channel, and until I see you all next time, whether it's on the Janjo Zone or maybe in the comments section of a future Jinzo&Tonic video, yeah, we'll keep in touch. So until I see you all next time, have a wonderful day.